Hi Refined community, Marta Lockley here. Welcome back to another editing tutorial. Thank you for those that sent in some photos to the Dropbox link that we provided. If you are interested in submitting some photos to be edited, current user or someone that's just interested in the presets, look down below and we will have a Dropbox link for you and you can just upload them there nice and easy, and we'll be doing these each week. We'll add our individuals in, and we'll also add in user images as well and edit them and show you how we would edit your images, or just use them for some tips, of different ways you could edit them if you wanted to. Let's go ahead and get started. I have a few images here, so I won't spend a ton of time on each because I don't want this to be super long. But let's just go ahead and get started. These first couple images here are from, let's see here, Diana Martin's, and these are actually JPEGs. The presets are built specifically for raw images, but they do work on JPEGs. You may just have to tweak things like contrast, or maybe the blacks a little differently. Color generally works really well, but these may have been shot raw and they were sent in as JPEGs, but because they don't look like they have a lot of compression or anything on them. But let's just go ahead and edit them, and I can show you how I would go ahead and move about these images. This one, obviously, the white balance is way off, so it lends me to believe that maybe it was a phone image or there was just not auto applied. So I'm just going to go ahead, because it's stationary, I'm going to use Refined 1. Refined 1 is our cleanest preset, and it has the least amount of color shifts to it, and it works really well for things like stationary or where you need to keep the colors a little more natural. So first I'm just going to go ahead and apply Refined 1 because I want to have it on. Go ahead and let's lift up this exposure, and I'm going to just start playing with the white balance. Just go ahead and keep increasing the warmth until I feel like we're getting to a look that I would like, or I think is closest to natural. And basically I'm watching the whites. I assume this card is stark white, and I'm looking at that and deciding where I want it. From here, if you like your images a little more on the green side, or if you like them a little more on the pink side, you can adjust there, or just to find a nice natural, neutral white balance. I think we could probably even cool this down just a touch. And then from there, you would just keep increasing the exposure and such as desired. It's very flexible. We have a tone curve built into this preset that allows you to basically stay in this part of the editing. And let's go ahead and just show you the before and after. Quite a difference. And again, simply white balance mainly on that, and Refined 1. Now if you're going for a more artsy look, you can add grain, maybe throw a little soften on there. If you want to change your tones a little, chateau, leather, pine, you can do that as well. Alright, let's go ahead and move on. I love this image. It's beautiful. I think that it could be a very artistic image. And I'm going to go ahead and just stick with Refined 1 since we're already here, but I want to show you a difference. You can see here's Refined 1. When I look at this image, I instantly know I'm going to be lifting the exposure a lot. I want it soft and airy, kind of romantic, and I think that's kind of the vibe that she was going for. So I know if I do that, Refined Deep will keep a little bit of the richness in here as I lift the exposure. But let me just show you the difference between the two. So I ran Refined 1, the regular Refined, and lift. And I'm lifting because I want it to be very airy and kind of breathy. Let's go ahead and I'm just a stickler for this crop. I think it keeps the focus on the subject matter a little better. Honestly, you wouldn't even have to do much difference with this. If you wanted to change your tone a little, you could, as far as warmth and not. It was actually pretty close to right on, and that's just Refined 1. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the side here, and I'm going to undo everything, and let's do Refined Deep. Basically, Deep just adds a little more contrast and blacks and oomph in the depths of the curve. That way, when you do lift your exposure, it maintains a little more of that. And you can see as I lift and lift and lift, you can already see the differences here. You can see it's a little richer, it's got a little more pop, just a little more oomph in the depths of the image. And those are just the two different styles. So if you like it a little more airy and breathy, a little, I would say maybe slightly flatter, pulled shadow look, your refined is the one for you. If you like a little more punch, then refined deep would work for you as well. And you could, of course, edit as you wish from here. And if you need to meet in the middle, you could do that as well. And just by lifting these few sliders. Let's go ahead and reset this real quick. I'm going to put that back over there so we have a good side-by-side going. I'm just going to lift, 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 and go ahead and add a little touch of warmth. And again, this is a JPEG, so you have it even a little more push with it with the raw file. So I'm going to add grain, and I'm going to add soften. Try to get closer for you guys so you can see it. And you can see just how beautiful that is. And then if we wanted to play, let's put this over with the tones, you could. Here's Chateau, has a little more of a pink tone, Leather, a little more warmth and depth in here, and then Pine is slightly greener. On this image, because it's so light, you're not going to see as much of the tonal changes because it's mostly white area. Let's go ahead and go back to detail. And I'm going to warm this up just a smidge. My slider's being super sensitive today. There you go. And that's how I would edit that image. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to our next images. This image is stunning, and this next set, I think to here actually, is by Maritza Vainas. She sent in quite a bit of images, and there was a good variety, so I ended up picking quite a few of them because I think it really shows off what you can do with the presets here. Let's go ahead and switch to Refine Caroline Tran, and let's go ahead, let's just do Patina for fun. And her white balance was shot very specific. I'm going to assume it was maybe Kelvin. Looks like we have a Nikon camera. Let's see here. Yep, Nikon D750. And so I'm just going to go ahead and cool it down a little because I can see the warmth here in her skin. And then let's go ahead and lift the exposure. And then what I'm going to do, and you guys have seen this if you watched my other videos, is I'm really keeping an eye on the whites. I don't want to blow this out and make those whites hot. So where I want to kind of lift this area a little more is I'm going to use the shadow slider and lift my depths. And you can see everything else maintains. The highlights are maintaining, everything else is maintaining because of the way we've built our tone curve. It's very specific to help keep the image depths set while you adjust from there. So you can put this side by side and you can see how amazing that looks right there. And if you want to soup it up a little bit, you can put some grain on it. And let's see, and we could always put blush tone on it as well. You can see the difference here. There's just with grain and with blush tone. Blush tone actually looks really pretty on this. There you go. Now one thing I noticed when I was playing with this earlier is, let me go ahead and reset, is it looks amazing in black and white. I liked black and white soft. The difference between, you can see mood, this image already has a lot of depth here, so I didn't want to do mood because I did not want to make that area even brighter. But I wanted to play with soft. Soft looks amazing just like this. If you like these tones or this depth, that's perfect for you. But I also loved it when I washed it out in a little bit more of a high key black and white. Let me just show you. So again, I don't want to push it. You know, if you want to lift this area here, you do not want to just keep doing this. Obviously, that's not going to work for you. So you want to push it until you feel like this area here is comfortable, and then just start lifting. And with the black and white, you can actually pull back some of this contrast. So I'm just going to keep lifting these shadows. And I'm going to go ahead and put grain grit on, which is like a very kind of chunky grain. And you can see just how amazing that looks right there. And there's your side by side. That is absolutely stunning. That gives you more of a fine art look. It looks like it, you know, it was one of those beautiful film accidents. You know, you think it's going to be amazing and then you get it and you're like, oh my god, it is amazing. So sometimes you just need to play with an image and see if you can push it to the next level and make it something more. You know, have a vision when you're editing your files, especially for pieces like this that can really be that frameable, almost art piece. Beautiful work. Let's go ahead and move on. I can edit all day, so I'm going to try not to ramble too much. Go ahead and give this one a crop. This one's a little tricky crop. I was playing with it earlier, and I use my lines to make sure, you know, people are standing straight up and down, because initially I wanted to go with the horizon and I realized they were falling. So this must be a hill in the background, so it gives it a little bit of a visual conundrum when you're looking at it. But they are straight up and down, and that's what's important. Let's go ahead and do pure this time. Straight out the bat, pure is, let me go undo this real quick. You can see well exposed image, pretty much dead on, and straight out the bat, pure looks amazing. You can honestly go there. And then if you wanted to increase it and make it more light and airy, again, watch your whites, don't push it too far, and then lift in here to push up the shadow levels. And honestly, you could leave it here too. If that's your look, you know, it looks perfect. It looks great. It's well exposed, great image. But if you're going for a little more of that airy look, then you would just keep increasing a little bit in here. But we do not want to blow out her dress. So let's go ahead and put highlight recover on there. That'll help maintain the details in her dress so we do not lose all of this lace here. Because if we kept doing this, that's what's going to happen. And then your colors also start getting wonky, and you don't want to do that. So you want to find that happy medium between your exposure. And it varies from image to image. Some images that don't have a lot of depth and contrast or backlighting don't need the shadow slider, but that's really important when you're dealing with an image that has a lot of backlighting and your foreground tends to get a little dark and you don't want to overexpose your whites. Let's go ahead and put this side by side so you guys can see the before and after. And it's just like that. And I actually didn't even mess with the white balance on this because it looks beautiful. But if it's a little warm for you, you can obviously just cool it down a smidge, or you can warm it up if you prefer it even warmer. Let's go ahead and put blush tone on this just to kind of take a look at it. Looks amazing. I would probably even just lighten this even more to give it a little more of that pale pink, chateau, filmy look. And there you go. Beautiful image. Love this image, and I wanted to show it because it has great skin color. We have two different tones of skin, and I wanted to show you how the presets work on them. And again, this is by Maritza Van Os, and hopefully I'm not butchering names. Let's see here, let's go ahead and crop and get them in here so it's a nice tight image and focuses on them. And let's go ahead and do patina. Here's patina straight off the bat. I'm going to keep these side by side because I really do think it helps you guys see what happens to the images as I work. And you could go here. I feel like he's a little muddy. The shadow's a little deep and dark. Some people like the style. That's good. Obviously, I would want to push it a little further, and the preset is meant to be pushed a little further. It's a little closer to a portrait look. Again, we have some whites to deal with, so we want to keep an eye on that as we're editing. So I'm going to increase the exposure just a smidge on these guys. And watch as their skin, it literally clears up. Again, we built some tone curves into these presets intentionally to retain some depth in the images. So they're going to look a little hard, especially patina, when you first run it. But it's meant to be adjusted to bring it to life. So as soon as you start lifting out of the shadows, either between the exposure or the shadow bar, you lose that deep darkness in there. But you maintain that nice depth that like a portrait film would have. It's cooler in the shadows, and you've got a little bit of that kind of that film grit. And of course, they tend to, portrait especially, tends to go a little more blue or turquoise in the blues. Fuji does as well. Depends on your scanner. Some scan super clean, some do not. Scanner by your lab tech, I would say, your scan tech. And you could adjust that if you really want to get back to this type of blue. Either use a different preset. I would suggest pure or refined, or you go into your HSLs and just tweak your blues a little, and that's all you would have to do. Personally, I love when you're not side by side, you look at this and you're like, that's an amazing image. It looks fabulous. You're not as distracted by the differences in the blues, and if you edit it the same across the board, it would be consistent. But you can see their skin tones look amazing here. And patina has a little more warmth in the skin. That's intentional. That's the way the preset's supposed to look. If it's not your thing, I would suggest using Pure. So let me go ahead and edit Pure real quick so we can see a side-by-side, and that might help you guys. This, I've already left the exposure and everything the same. And let's go ahead and just run Pure. And you can see already the difference in the blues. Again, patina is named patina because it has patina to it. It has a little more yellow, a little more greens in the shadows, a little more blue shift. It's got more color shifts than the other preset. And Pure named Pure because it is more pure. It's definitely a cleaner of the two presets. And again, I'll probably just lift this a little here. And really, I could just go just right there. And if you like a little punchier, even for your Pure, you can just add a little contrast. Again, our contrast slider works as not as much as the typical contrast slider because the way our tone curve is locked, it helps maintain some of those highlights and stuff. Normally if you go contrast, it goes super black and super white, but we've locked in that curve. So your contrast slider actually works as basically your, do I want less of this preset or do I want more of this preset? It's kind of how it pushes the preset itself. And in the world of these new profiles, I think that's a good way to kind of explain it, is it gives you a little less or a little more. If you like it breathier or if you like it punchier, you really just need to use the contrast slider. But this is a good way to see patina left and Pure right, and that's really just a matter of style. I'm going to throw patina back over here real quick and show you that just by tweaking your white balance, you can adjust this a little more even. And that can give you a little more variance in the tones that you're getting in your preset. Let's go ahead and move on. The computer doesn't want to wake up. We both need more coffee today. Let's go ahead and crop. This is a beautiful image. Lots of green, so it's another reason I wanted to show this image for you guys. And let's go back up to Refine 1, just so we're back and forth. We have some beautiful speckling. She's obviously in the open shade. Very cool in her skin. She's pink and a little on the blue side. So we know we're going to have some white balance adjustments. Here's Refined 1 right off the bat. Beautiful. Some people would honestly just go with this edit and call it a day, and you could totally do that. I feel like I'd want to tweak the white balance a little bit. Let's try auto on this and see. And there you go. I mean, you don't even have to move on. You could just go with this. The greens look wonderful. They've got that nice kind of Fuji feel to them. Her skin looks beautiful considering she's an open shade with a ton of green color cast going on around her. The whites are white. They're creamy in the highlights, so you've lost this kind of blue that you were dealing with. And really, that's it. Now from here, if you wanted to tweak, you could adjust it if you like things warmer, if you like them cooler, but utilizing your software, smart tools can really save you a lot of time. I could hand tweak this and get it right on, but that would take me longer sitting here going back and forth between the temperature and the tint and finding the magic recipe. But just by using the auto on here, the software was able to recognize where the neutral zone for this and got us a lot closer. Let me go ahead and put this back real quick so you can see. Here's Refined 1 with the image as it was shot. Excuse me, stuttering on my words. Oh, wake up, computer. Okay. So Refined 1, straight out of camera, white balance, and then Refined 1, auto white balance. You can totally see the difference in her skin and in the background and everything, and in the highlights of the dress. Definitely cooler, greener, blue over here, and pinker and a little creamier over here. So use your tools, and it would help make your presets look amazing and make your images look more amazing. I'm going to go ahead and put grain on this and soften, and these are things that you probably won't notice on this screen record. But to me, it just adds a little bit of the final touch and gets you closer to a printable image and a little more of a fine art look. Now for this, let's go ahead real quick just so we can show you the differences. Let's put this over here. So we have Refined 1, completely white balanced over here, and here's with Chateau. We have a little of a pink tone to the overall image. Here's with Leather. This gives you a little bit of a worn look. and pine is cooler, which is a little more reminiscent of, say, a Noritsu scan. And let's move on to the next image. I got a couple more for you guys. And this one I liked because it was the opposite of this one. This one, we remember, was very cool to start. My computer does not want to wake up today. Okay. Very cool to start. And then we have the opposite. We have a nice warm image. So let's go ahead and do Refine 1. And the white balance on this is going to be tricky because she's very warm, but the rest of the room doesn't look ultra warm because we have a lot of shade here as well. So you're going to have to kind of fine tune this. Let me see what auto looks real quick. Yeah, I don't like the way that, see, it doesn't always work. So you'll have to go in and manually just raising the exposure a little and finding a happy medium here. Add a little bit of pink into her because I felt like she was getting a little cool in the shadows. And then we do highlight save on this because we're kind of getting a little bit of a blowout here where the light was coming in strong. Okay. Just fine-tune tweaking here. And there you have, just keep increasing these, a nice airy image. And you really could go pretty far with this one. I'm going to pull that all the way back. There you go. Now there's Refine 1, and of course you can add Soften and Grain. If you haven't noticed in the other images, Soften, you really won't notice a ton of change, but it adds just, you can still see it's very tack sharp in here, so it does not take that off. It just takes a tiny bit of that digital edge off the image that gets you closer to that nice soft film look that we all strive for so often. And also helps when you're trying to blend with your film work, if you're a hybrid shooter, taking that digital edge off a little. I'm going to go ahead and reset this because I loved it in black and white as well. And there's mood, and you can honestly go there. You got a little dark in the blacks, so you could either pull back the contrast just a hair, or you can actually just pull back the blacks a little. And you could go with that and bring grit just to give it a little more black and white deliciousness, if that's a word, I'm making it up. And there you go, that's a beautiful image. And then if we wanted to try soft, I'm going to put Soften on it and bring grit. And I'm going to play with some of the high key. And just keep pushing this. And again, you can see I'm going back and forth between exposure, contrast, and shadows to make sure that I'm not blowing this out and making it look super weird. So I want to have a nice balance of the whites and the darks because her hair does get very dark in this area, but I want it to have a little more of a high key look so it's super soft and ethereal and maybe a little more kind of those fine art ones we see. And zoom in, you can even make it a little more. Sometimes just cropping can get you even more romantic. And make sure that this is on here. See if you can see it by zooming in. Yeah. And there you go. And there's the before and after. Beautiful images. All right, and we have a couple more images, and this is by Henry Friesen. And let's go ahead and crop and straighten. Make sure everybody's standing on straight poles. The trees are straight. That's the lines I'm looking at is their body. I'm basically putting a line straight up and down through their body so they look normal, and also using the trees in the background. There we go. Side by side. And let's go ahead and go down here and we'll use Pure. And you can see we have a ton of contrast in the back. So we're going to have to play with that a little bit. And it's also a very cool image here. So we're going to warm it up just a smidge too. So let's go ahead and get some more light into the image. Again, with these brides, you've got to watch these dresses and make sure you're not blowing out their details because they pay a lot of money for these dresses. They want that lace and they'd like to see it in their images. So we want to be careful to maintain that for them. And I can see in here she's a little green. It's probably the color cast from all the trees above her, the canopy. And there's a little bit reflecting in his shirt. So I'm going to take a tad of that green out by just adjusting the tint slider. And you can see already her skin got a little more natural. Let's go back. Okay. It was right about there. And we just pushed it up to add a little more pink. And the pink naturally balances out the greens for you. Let's do highlight recover. I'm going to do green. And you could honestly leave that image there and call it a day. If you want it a little punchier, your contrast slider works. If you want a little less on those trees in the background, just lift your shadows a little bit. It'll give you a little more air back in this area. And if you wanted less, if you wanted more depth of field here, obviously, let's see, this is shot at 2.8, so it wasn't super narrow, but you could widen it out a little more since you're stepped back off of them or pull them forward away from the trees just to make them a little set off a little more. But it's a beautiful image and looks great. Let's see here, move on, and now we've got a super green one. You know how we all get this lovely fluorescent grass that happens sometimes when you're shooting, and especially the summer months, I think it's even worse. Let's go ahead and straighten and crop. And show you a couple tricks on this. Maybe go back to Refined 1. Horizontal images are a little harder on the side by side. That's how it's going to go. Alright, so I'm going to increase, let me go back up. I'm going to increase exposure first just to kind of see what I'm dealing with. And it's actually beautiful, but I can see that they're looking a little cool in their skin tone. So I'm going to, let's try auto and see what it's going to give us. Okay, now we got the polar opposite. So it read the warmth too much and we went way too pink. So I'm going to undo auto and hand tweak because I felt like this was a little closer. So the two things I'm going to look for is I want to warm them up, but I also want to make sure as I'm warming them up that they're not getting too warm and that I'm neutralizing the green. And how you neutralize the green is to go the opposite direction of green on these two colors. So you want to push more to the magenta. So first let me go ahead and add a little warmth to this because we do want a little bit of this sun glow. I mean, it's there and it's beautiful and it is warm. And then I'm going to add just a touch of the pink in. The other auto pushed way too much of that. And a little contrast. Actually, it's beautiful. Sorry. And there you can see the preset neutralized the fluorescent greens. We have no fluorescence. I actually worked really, really, really hard on getting greens good in this because I didn't want them to turn gray, that kind of gray-green, very sagey. Film, especially Fuji for Refined 1, the greens they're green, they're a little sagey, but they still have some natural warmth in them. If you really study it, it still has some color and warmth and variances in the greens. And I really wanted to maintain that. So that's one thing that we worked super hard on was the greens and the skin tones. So that's why this, went more natural once the preset was run. And suit looks good. We can see all his details. Dress, no highlights are blown. Flowers look amazing. The greens look great on the eucalyptus. Skin looks good. You can really go there. And that's beautiful. Let's go ahead and run patina on this because it'll have a totally different look. And just so we can have fun with it and see. You can see right off the bat, patina just added all kinds of punch to this. This is where people get scared. And understandably so. They're like, your presets don't work. And I'm like, you have to work them a little bit. Again, we have the same color issues because we reset it, so we haven't done the tones. So let me go ahead and take this off so we're not looking through side by side. So again, I'm going to add a little warmth into this, and the warmth is going to help neutralize the green. And I'm going to add some pink into it, and the pink is also going to help neutralize the green. So already our greens got a lot better. They were not as scary as they were 2 seconds ago. And then we're going to work on lifting the shadows up a little because patina is punchier and we have some very dark areas in our background. I don't want to get too far because her dress is actually blush, and we don't want to lose the fact that she has a blush dress. We don't want to make it look white. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to put this over here so we can switch. Undo. Put this over here, and let me reset that so you can see the before and after. So this is with patina. And I think I would probably even tweak it a little more. I'm going to bring it back down. Exposure. And I think I can add a little more. And you can really just play with it there. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you want to see your images edited by us, please be sure to see the link below and add your images to the Dropbox for next week's video, and we'll sort through them and find some images to use. If you have any questions of what you guys want to see in our videos, be sure to comment below and let us know what you want to see, the types of videos you want us to focus on, if there's a specific thing that you're having trouble with. Be sure to submit your images and tell us what video you want us to work on, and we'll be glad to help you with that. And be sure to subscribe, because we would love to have you guys subscribe to our videos, since we are trying to put one out at least once a week. And join our Facebook group. All these links will be down below. Follow us on Instagram. We are all over the place. We have a Pinterest account too, where you can actually save links to our videos and our before and afters, sales, things like that. Be sure to follow us across social media, because we do try to put things out across the board, because we know not everybody uses all of them. So you can find the one that works best for you. Thanks again, and thank you for being a refined user.